Hello and welcome to Your County. I'm your host, Lynne Turner Fitzgerald. Joining me today is Yellowstone County Commission Chairman John Ostlund. John, thank you for being here.
Lynn, thank you for the opportunity.
I know you're a busy guy, so we appreciate any time you can give us. One thing I wanted to ask you about, Commissioner, is something that recently was voted on by the Commission to have an election, whether or not to do a local government review commission. So can you dive into that for me?
Lynn, thanks for asking, because the public and the voters should know what that's all about. The 1972 Montana Constitution requires the commissioners every 10 years in every form of government, like the city of Laurel, the city of Billings, they require us to put on the ballot the option for the voters to determine if they want to study local government. And if they want to study it, then we have to fund it. So the commissioners voted last week to pass a resolution to put the ballot language on for the June primary. And in the June primary, Lynn, the voters will decide the first question, if you want to fund or if you want to study local government, and if you do you want to fund it? And we set aside $1 million, which is $490,000. So that would be an adequate level of funding to study local government over 2 years.
So the money then would go to the people on the commission?
Well, that's the first step in the process, is the June primary, to determine if you want to review local government or if you do not. Then if they choose to review local government, there will be another ballot issue on the general election, and they would elect 7 commissioners from the public that would be your study group, and then they would be funded with $500,000. So those 7 people, Lynn, would have the opportunity to look at the size of government, the type of government, whether or not we want to stay as a general powers government, which we are with 3 commissioners, whether we want to go to 5 or 7 commissioners, or whether we want to do a charter form of government, which is self-governing, and it gives the commissioners more authority to do things that we otherwise aren't statutorily allowed to.
Well, I think we should mention that 10 years ago, this failed.
Lynn, I think if you look back in history, it has never passed in Yellowstone County. And just for a little history, it's required every 10 years to do it. The voters seem to like across the country, not just here, the 3-commission form of government, because it's very efficient. I've always thought that if you want to change government, if you got the wrong commissioners in there, elect new ones. But I don't know that changing government solves the problem. Ravalli County did that, Lynn, about 12, 15 years ago. They did local government review study. They determined they should have 5 commissioners, so they did approve that. They put 5 commissioners on, and at the next 10-year review in Ravalli County, they elected to have a local government review again, and they went back to 3 commissioners, and they cited the fact that it was very expensive, and you got less work done, and it created an environment where there's a lot more discussion and less productivity.
Okay. So they sent it back to the cleaners.
They sent it back to 3.
Yeah, and historically that's just been the case here in Yellowstone County. No, it's never passed. But I want to ask you, who would be eligible to be on this commission?
Just about anybody that wanted to run for that. You'd actually sign up to be a commissioner, and there could be, if there's 7 commissioners, there could be 20 names on the ballot. So you would, Lynn, you could be a commissioner if you wanted to study local government.
I don't think anybody wants that.
Well, I would. I think you'd do a great job.
No, but I mean, don't you see the opportunity if 7 people really got in there with an agenda?
Yeah.
Things could change pretty quickly.
That's exactly right. And most times, study commissions do have an agenda to do something that they want.
Right.
Across the country, the 3-commission form of government is the predominant form of government everywhere. I've been fortunate enough with the Montana Association of Counties to be the transportation chairman for about 19 years. And I go back to the national events in DC and then at the convention in July. And most local governments are 3 commissioners. It's
Even
very
in
efficient.
the really big places, huh?
Well, Some of the bigger places do have more, but predominantly the country is rural in nature, and I'd say 95% of it are 3.
Really?
And they do a great job.
Yeah, okay. So the election is the 24th of June? Do I have that
The
right?
election, no. The election is the June primary, which is the second Tuesday in June.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got the wrong
Yeah,
date.
yeah.
And this is ballot? Mail-in ballots?
It'll be mostly a mail ballot. You know,
Okay.
if you signed up for it, you can vote in person at the Metro or Custer or all the polling places that are open, Shepherd, Laurel,
Okay.
the courthouse.
Is this on your website, the language that would be on the ballot?
It is, and I brought it with me also if you don't have it.
Okay, all right. So if people really want a little more information, they
Yep.
can just jump on
They
the
can
website.
get on the election
Okay.
website and they'll get that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears a little bit to the jail. What's the progress there?
Lynn, the progress is great. Sometime back, the city sent us a letter with an offer of a $500,000 commitment and a temporary building to do a temporary hold facility for 72 hours. And as you know, we're overbooked at the jail
Right.
all the time. We're full. And so the concept they sent us was a great concept. It really makes sense. We sent the work off to our architect, and the architect said, of course, that a temporary building or a canvas building wouldn't meet any of the security requirements or the state or federal codes for confinement. So we had the architect, Schatz Foss, kind of design a preliminary permanent structure. The city had asked for like 33 beds, 30-some beds early on. And that's turned into about 96, Lynn, because you have to separate men and women. And we've got the courts involved and the prosecutors involved and the defense attorneys and mental health and everyone. And the police and the sheriff's department are 100% behind it, as are most citizens. This is really a good concept. If we build a temporary hold facility that would hold prisoners no longer than 72 hours, what you do, Lynn, is you put accountability into the picture. And this is what's missing right now, because someone gets arrested for breaking into your house and the jail's full, they get a notice to appear and we never see them again, and they
That's
go
right.
commit another crime.
Yeah.
Well, the city and the county collectively have been talking, and the price for this is about $6 million to build it. And the city voted last night, I believe, to contribute a couple of $1 million to the project. And we're very, very grateful, because with that funding and the capital money that we've saved, we can immediately start on this process. And I think we can have this up and running in a year.
So
And
is this on the current campus of the jail?
this will be on the current campus, Lynn.
Okay.
And as you know, we're talking about 2 projects. One is at 72-hour hold, where if you get arrested on Friday, you'll get put in jail and you'll stay there till you see a judge. We'll have an arraignment court coupled with that. And so
On location?
on
So
location,
the judge is right
or
there.
video, whatever the judges choose, but you'll be arraigned before you leave, and you'll stay likely no longer than 72 hours. But you're either going to get remanded to the jail to stay, depending on the charges, an ankle bracelet, or a bond, and you'll see a judge before you get out of there, and you'll have a court date set. And it puts accountability in the picture. The most important component of law enforcement is having the police and the sheriff's department, the highway patrol, having the ability to arrest someone on spot and put them in jail. And the commissioners are 100% behind it. I'm very, very grateful. I know the city council struggled with coming up with the funding for their half, but I think they've accomplished that. And I think that this is, it's what the community wants, and it's what we hear from everyone all the time.
Well, if it's going to be, I think jail overcrowding will be a perpetual problem. It is around the country. I don't see it being any different here.
Well, it isn't any different here, and a lot of the problems we're facing here are cartel influenced. So if you've looked at any of the information that's out there, Lynn, the open borders are the problem. And we're dealing with all of the fallout from fentanyl and meth. Fentanyl commands the highest price in Montana that it does anywhere in the country. And so a fentanyl pill that costs $0.25 to make in Mexico and sells for $2 or $3 in Texas can sell for $100 in Montana. And they target the Native Americans, the cartel does. They've moved their operatives up here. They've married up with the Native women. They operate off the reservation because there's a lack of law enforcement there, and they have different structure for law enforcement. It makes it easy for gangs and the cartel to operate out of there. And it's pretty well documented that 90% of our problem is coming from the cartel and the result of an open border.
Now,
You know, it's interesting. I had to push a button to get into the Lincoln Center
yeah,
and get allowed to be let into here.
yeah, and you have
But
to
you can
sign
walk-
in too.
You can walk across the border and get a credit card, and they'll put you up in a luxury hotel and feed you and give you medical attention.
Wow.
Something wrong with that? I think there is.
Okay, let's go back to the reservation. Are you talking all the reservations across Montana? Are
I
seeing
think
the same problem?
every reservation has been infiltrated, but I think the northern reservations have been the real problem, and that's where the cartel commands the highest money. They have a lot of cash, and they're susceptible to drugs and alcohol, and so they target them, and there's something really wrong with that.
Well, they don't just stay on the reservation though. They come into our cities and our towns.
They do, yeah, and they're selling their drugs here.
So, okay, equate the jail expansion to obliterating this problem. We're going to nab these guys and put them behind bars?
Well,
Get them off the street?
I think you're catching a percentage of them, and we'll get some of them off the street. I don't know what the answer is nationally for that, Lynn, but it's created the need for an expansion. We talked about the 72-hour hold. That's one component of what the commissioners are looking at. We're also talking about jail expansion. So our architect Al Rapaz, he found a spot where we can expand the jail, put these 96 beds for men and women, have a 72-hour hold, get some accountability in the picture, and not hinder the future expansion, which could be 200, 400, or 600 beds. And that's the next step in the process. We'll look at that. But unlike the 72-hour hold, Lynn, that we can fund, we're talking probably 100 to 150, $80 million to expand the jail the size we need, and then you have to operate it. So we
Yeah.
will have to go out to the citizens for a mill levy increase and a bond sale to
Now,
build and operate the jail.
Would that get at the 400 and 600 beds that you're talking about?
We're going to pay, right now, the city and the county are going to fund the 72-hour hold,
Right.
and we will build that. The next component to that, which is expansion of the jail, and we don't know what the size will be yet. We are going to go out with an RFP, and we're going to engage a company that looks at these problems and tells the community, you know, here's the number of people that you have, here's the crimes that are committed, here's the number of law enforcement. We think you need so many. We need a professional opinion before we go to the voters and ask to expand the jail or double its size.
You know, you mentioned mental health earlier as part of the expansion. And I was looking at my property tax bill the other day. I just, you know, all the various little columns and where the money goes, and so much for schools and law enforcement. One of the least funded, it was like $2, it went for mental health.
You
it
never
was
have enough money for it.
Startling to me.
It is startling. Rod Ostlund actually runs a mental health center. He does a fantastic job. He's just such a blessing to have, and they work really hard, but they never have enough resources.
No. No. So, I mean, with mental health being such a topic of conversation these days,
Yeah.
do you see an increase in funding coming?
Well, I hope we see an increase from the legislature and they put a larger focus on that statewide. Most of the people in the jail have drug, alcohol, and mental health issues.
Right.
So
Right.
it's a huge problem in our community.
Well, what kind of timeline do you think exists for the expansion of the jail?
Expansion of the jail will be 2 or 3, 4 years down the road, because first we'll have to determine the size, then we'll have to determine the cost, and that will take some work, and get an estimated cost of construction and operation, because you'll have to expand your laundry and your kitchen and your medical facilities and legal and all the things that go with operating a jail. And so once we put together all the numbers, then we'll go back out to the voters and have them vote on whether or not they want to fund an expansion. And from what I hear, Lynn, most of them do. And when we get to that point, I hope that they will. We will build a 72-hour hold, and we'll get that done in less than a year. And Lynn, although this won't solve the problem, I'll tell you what, the accountability it will put in the picture will be a blessing for everybody. This
Yeah.
is what the public wants, and
Right.
I support it 100%.
So every once in a while, the Hardin jail pops into the conversation. Why don't we use the empty Hardin jail?
Well, I think it's a Native American treatment center right now. It's very, very difficult, Lynn. Well, not only have we been told that it can't be insured, and so MACO won't insure it, but when you have local inmates like Yellowstone County inmates, they need to be arraigned. They need to go back and forth to the court. Some of them do video arraignments.
Right.
It would be very expensive to run the attorneys back and forth to Hardin and run the inmates back and forth to Hardin, even if it were available, which it's not.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about the new courthouse. How's that coming?
Well, we're going to stay in the original courthouse. We're going to move the rest of the county employees out of there. We're in the Stillwater building
Yeah,
right now.
the commission is now in that's a city building though, right?
That's a city building now. It was private before.
It's so confusing.
I know. So we moved out of the courthouse to make room for the expansion of the last judges that they give us. And I understand, Lynn, that it's very likely we'll get 3 more. And so we need to move the rest, the treasurer, HR, a number of other people out of the courthouse and into another office. So we have purchased the Miller building, which is the old Security Bank building on the corner. I think it's 28th.
It's behind the Alberta Bear Theater, right?
Yeah, behind the Alberta Bear Theater. And we're in the process of remodeling that right now. We hope to get in there around September of next year.
25.
25, yep. And then we need to prepare for some judges in the future. And you probably know the process, and if you don't, the voters should know. So when the legislature provides additional district court judges for Yellowstone County, they pay the salary. The Yellowstone County voters and residents pay the cost of remodeling the courthouse, building the new courtrooms. It was several $1 million last time. It will be several $1 million more this time. It also disrupts everything that we do and moves all of our employees into the new administrative building. But we purchased that. We paid for it. We planned well, Lynn. So we're not asking for a tax increase for that. We have money to buy that building and remodel it. We have money set aside to remodel for the judges. And we may or may not, in fact, keep an office or a presence in the Stillwater building that's now the city building, because when you add 3 more judges, you got to add more prosecutors, you'll add more city police,
Sure.
You'll add more deputies, and all of that has a cost to it.
Now, do I remember that the existing county courthouse, once things shift to the Miller building, it will still have the county attorney in it?
The county attorney
And the judges?
and the judges
Okay.
and the clerk of district court.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that'll be it for the whole building?
That will be it. And then security will look different. When it's just courtrooms and courthouses, then you can have a much higher level of security, which they believe that we need, and I do too. But when you have it open to the public, then there are different thresholds that you have to follow in the law that allow the public access to, like the treasurer's office, which is still there.
Well, you mentioned having to get buzzed into this building. We don't have to get buzzed into the courthouse, do we?
You don't know it's open to the public, but different times when they have trials, Lynn, we'll set up the mags there, and we'll have a lot more security for the courtrooms, which are separate from the courthouse.
It seems to me that it would be just a good idea in general to have some kind of security
It does seem like that.
in the courthouse.
You know, our judges deal with a lot of people that have all kinds of problems, and we agree 100%, and we're looking at that higher level of security, and you will see that when it's just courtrooms.
Well, what about the Miller building then? When that's the
Miller
courthouse?
building will be a public building, so it will be largely open.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What do you see for growth in Yellowstone County, or for the administrative team? Are there departments that are just not underfunded but understaffed?
All in all, I think we do pretty good right now. We have got probably one of the most effective road and bridge departments in the country, and they do a great job. And Lynn, that's hugely important. It's amazing that Yellowstone County, we're the most populous county, and we've got 3 refineries and the medical center, and we have retail, and we have tourism, and we have manufacturing, and ag is the #1 industry. And over half of the miles of Yellowstone County roads are still gravel, and they serve
Really?
our farm and ranch community. And yeah, there's 1,600 miles of roads and half of them are gravel. And the farmers and ranchers depend on that road structure and that network to bring their grain and their cattle and their beets and everything to town. So we take very seriously that rural road service. And our Road and Bridge Department provides a great opportunity to.
That's a pretty amazing statistic. Half is gravel.
Half is gravel.
Wow.
So we're still very rural, although we're the most urban county in the state. We have a very rural component there that it's important for us to take care of them too.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was just visiting with the city assistant fire chief. We were talking about the Yellowstone River and the rescue operations there. Now, that falls largely on the sheriff's department, or does it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That our sheriff's department, we got a great team on there. They have a river rescue crew, and we have a couple of jet boats, and they fish people out of there that make a mistake or wreck a boat every now and then, or float down in a rubber raft
Right.
that's not adequate and hit a tree branch, and
Yeah.
they get snagged up out there. We also have a helicopter service, and it is the best component of our sheriff's department that you can imagine. We had 3 helicopters giving to us OH-58s, which are military jet rangers. They were given to us by the military. We have 2 of those working and 1 cabbaged for parts, and we have a lot of other parts that were donated as part of that
Really?
process. And so we have 2 helicopters. 1 is available all the time. They have been used in a number of chases. They pretty much eliminated a lot of the car thefts that were going on. We caught like 7 out of the 8 of the last car thieves in the process.
With the helicopter?
With the helicopter.
Well,
And,
explain that to me.
Well, they'll get a call, and they'll say that they're in pursuit of a stolen car.
Oh.
And so they'll call our helicopter crew, and Gary Blaine actually pilots that. He keeps that at his own airport.
Okay.
And it's fueled up and available. It takes less than 2 minutes to get it pulled out and started up. He usually takes the sheriff or a captain or a deputy with him. And Lynn, every time the sheriff helicopter gets a sight on a stolen vehicle, they catch him. You're not going to get away. And it's a great tool.
Well, and I've seen more helicopters, I think, in the sky. Are they training currently?
Well, I think you have a number of things. You have the hospital up here, and
Right.
then you have private helicopters, and you have the military who are also expanding in the airport here. So you have a lot of training flights over the city.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
How about drones? Is the county using drones?
The sheriff has used some drones, and I think we use some in surveying and local things like that.
All right, well,
Yeah.
very good. I want to thank you for being here. And again, if you want more information on the upcoming election for the city government review, I guess, or commission, you can just go to the Yellowstone County website and get all the details.
Click
you
on
need.
elections, and you'll get all the information.
All right, very good. Well, again, thank you, County Commission Chairman John Ostlund. And thank you for joining us on Your County. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Lynn.